Hey guys, welcome to the weekly question video. If you like these question videos, give this video a like, leave us a comment, subscribe if you're not already. All of those things really do help out the channel. And if you want to dive deeper into the topic of domestic discipline, get bonus content, the best place to do that is over on Patreon. A link to our Patreon is down below. So on this week's question video, I want to tackle the question of, does domestic discipline cause resentment? I think that this question is a common question, and it can go on either side, either with the taken in hand or the head of household. I know as a taken in hand, sometimes it's hard to think through and conceptualize that our head of household might resent us for needing discipline or for having emotional needs or for having to take on the role of leadership and decision making in our relationships. And sometimes, as a taken in hands, we can think that that is a burden or that is burdensome. And that might cause our head of households to resent us because we're not sharing that mental load. We're not sharing the burden of decision making. And I went into a whole video over on Patreon about how that really isn't the case, because our head of households, they want that responsibility because it is within their role. And so it's not something that they resent. But also on the taken in hand side, I think that there is this idea that a taken in hand might resent her head of household because they impose rules and consequences. And maybe the punishments might feel severe enough that that would cause resentment, or having to go through a punishment, or if the head of household makes a bad decision and all of a sudden the taken in hand resents them for not making the right decision or imposing punishment when they didn't think that it was warranted or fair. All of those things are questions that come up. All of those things kind of come from this place of not knowing and being kind of insecure or trepidatious about how to proceed, because we don't want to cause resentment in our relationships. We don't want to experience those things. And so when we are going into domestic discipline, we see the potential for resentment to build. We have to be very cautious, and it is natural to want to make sure that you're not making a decision that's ultimately bad for your relationship. I can say that I have seen so many couples at this point kind of go through this early stage process, mostly through our Patreon members who also get connected to our Discord. We've seen couples come in that, they start with in our Discord server within a few weeks or even a few months of really starting their dynamics. And we've seen kind of them go through the early stages of trying to figure out if domestic discipline is right for them, if that's something that they want to do, and also kind of questioning, is this going to breed resentment in my relationship? And how do I get past that? How do I get past those feelings? And how do I make sure that I'm not doing something that is going to ultimately cause problems in my relationship? All I can say is that most of the time, and I'm not going to say 100% of the time because everyone's different, but most of the time you will see that domestic discipline is ultimately good for your relationship if you both agree to it. If that's something that you are both wanting, you have to have a shared vision. You have to have a shared desire to be in this relationship style. But if you have a shared vision, if you're each coming into domestic discipline willingly and you are both consenting to this relationship, ultimately it will be good for your relationship. You're not going to see those resentments happening because you will see that it will be good. It will be something that is ultimately a positive in your relationship, but you might have to work through early issues. And what I mean by that is that you might experience resistance to the process of domestic discipline. You might experience resistance to the rules, resistance to the punishments, resistance to the structures. As a head of household, you might find that it can feel overwhelming at first when you're not used to leading your home and you're not used to leading your relationship. Maybe it does feel overwhelming. Maybe it does feel a little burdensome to all of a sudden have all of the responsibility and all of the authority. But if you can push past those early resistance, if you can push past those early feelings of overwhelm, you will see that you will settle into your role. A head of household will understand that like there is freedom in having authority and having decision-making power, and there is a level of fulfillment that he gets from having the submission of his taken in hand and having the ability to make decisions in his house. There is liberation, there is freedom in that. And a taken in hand, if you can push past, feeling like, that resistance to the structure and the rules and the consequences and all of that, if you can push past that resistance and understand that there is freedom in being led, that there is freedom in surrendering yourself to your head of household, yielding yourself to your head of household, and you can see the benefit to your relationship, the benefit to you, the lack of stress that you have in your life because you are giving the things that you should not be holding on to. You're giving those to your head of household because that is his role to have those things. And it is your role to listen and obey and, be respectful and do all of the things that are within your role and your responsibility. And you find freedom in that. That will breed connection and closeness in your relationship, and that will be a good thing. And so long term, you're not going to see resentment build. You're actually going to see resentment start to dissipate. You're going to see resentment disappear from your relationship because you are both functioning within your roles. It's really important, though, that you understand the necessity to push past those early kind of challenges, if you will, that early resistance. And it is also really, really important to have regular check-ins. One of the best ways to get through those challenges early on is to make sure that you're checking in with each other, that you're having ongoing conversations, that you're building the emotional connections within your relationship so that it's not just rules and consequences. It's not just, I tell you what to do and you're supposed to do it. It's really building the relationship aspect of your relationship. It's building up the connection and the closeness and the bond that you have. And that because everything within domestic discipline is an outpouring from that bond. And so you want to make sure that you are building up your relationship, that you're having those check-ins, that you are creating a shared vision, that you are creating a unified goal for your relationship that you can both stand behind and get behind and support and drive forward within your roles, and create what you want out of your relationship. And the only way to do that is to check in with each other, to have these very intentional conversations, to build your relationship and to build up the bond within your relationship through the structures and through just having that connection and building that connection. And as time goes on, you will see that that becomes easier and easier and easier, and you will start to see your relationship develop deeper and deeper and deeper. And as you do that, you will notice that there is no resentment, that there is no animosity, that there is no unaddressed issues between you. And you will see that domestic discipline really does create harmony within relationships. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. Let me know what you think down below, and we will talk to you next time.